welcome to another design clips here at W+9. This is Dawn. In today's video we are going to be doing some watercoloring with a twist. So we're not trying to get super blended results, we're actually going for more of an illustrative style, and this is really easy to achieve and I'm going to show you how. Now this is part of the dailymarker.com's 30-day coloring challenge blog hop. This is the 10th challenge and is run by my friend Kathy Rakusin. Be sure to click in the description box below on the link to my blog and you will find all of the details on this challenge as well as the blog hop and the prizes to be won along the way. And I'll give you a little more information about that in just a bit. So today I'm going to be working on distress watercolor cardstock. This is my preferred paper when working with distress inks. Pretty much it's the only paper I use when working with distress inks. For our stamp sets, we're going to be using our new Fierce and Fabulous for our sentiment, and then we're going to be using the Hibiscus Bouquet to do our watercoloring. But this technique will work with any open floral image that you have. I'm going to be using a number 5 round watercolor brush. This is my preferred size when working on coloring stamped images, but I encourage you to use whichever size you're most comfortable with. And I'm going to be doing my stamping using the Misty. I'm going to start by stamping my sentiment, and that's because this will give me an idea of where I want to stamp my flowers. I'm working on the smooth side of the Tim Holtz watercolor paper here, and I'm just lining this up, making sure it's straight. And then when I close the door, I'm going to use my grid to make sure that I've got it perfectly centered. You can see here I've got 4 squares on each side. To stamp this, I'm going to be using our W+9 Pure Color dye ink, and that's because this is a waterproof ink. So I can stamp all of my images in this and I can watercolor right over it and it's not going to budge. I made sure to ink this up really well, and now I'm making sure that I have good pressure over the whole image because this is a solid image. I want to make sure that I've got a really good impression. Using that same ink, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the bouquet twice, once on either side. What I really like about this sentiment is even though it's very graphic and bold, the letters are staggered so that it creates a more organic flow in the layout. And I'm using the way that some of the letters indent in and some of them jut out to nestle my bouquet up into those empty spots. I like the way that it keeps the graphic feel, but keeps it from being too boxy or linear. And now that our stamping is done, we're ready to move on to our watercoloring. And I am going to give this about 3 or 4 minutes to fully set though. Once it's fully set, I can watercolor over it and I don't have to worry about any smearing. Now the setup is the same that is generally used for any watercoloring with distress ink. I've got my small bowl of water over there to the right. I've got my little makeshift palette, which is just a stamp sleeve with a white sheet of paper slipped inside that keeps the stamp sleeve from being transparent so I can see the true color. I've squished out my ink pads onto the little palette there, and I'm going to start with a first wash of color. It's going to be my lightest color. So I'm using more water and less of the ink. And it's very, very light. Again, you can decide exactly how dark or light you want to go for this first layer, but we're going to be doing 3 to 4 layers of color. So you want to make sure that you don't start off too dark. I'm going to very loosely fill in this first layer of color. I'm not worried about filling in each petal from edge to edge. I'm leaving white gaps and white breaks. Again, I am just getting down that first very light wash of color. Now what I really enjoy about this technique is there's no pressure to make it ultra realistic, to get spectacular blends, or even to put the colors in the right place. We're going for a very illustrative look anyway, and I can really just relax and unwind. I'm going to make my way around the image, adding that first initial wash of color to all of the images. Here you can see I've skipped ahead. I've already added a layer of a blue-green, kind of a tealish color to the monstera leaves. I've added green to the palm frond, and then now I'm adding a little bit of yellow to the canna lilies. Fun fact, canna lilies are the only, no, I take that back. Elephant ears and canna lilies are the only thing that I can grow. I kill absolutely every other flower or plant, whether it's indoors or outdoors. I don't know what it is with me. I have a black thumb. I cannot grow a flower to save my life unless it's an elephant ear or a canna lily. Maybe that's why I love painting them so much. Okay, so now that the first layer is dry, it's time to add that second layer of color. This is going to be like our midtone. And to do that, I'm just going to mix a slightly darker version of the first color. And to do this, I'm just going to use more ink and less water. I don't want to go too dark just yet because I want to add at least one more depth of color. But by all means, if you just wanted to do 2 colors, you could definitely do that. Now this time when I'm adding the second layer, I'm going to paint slightly less of the petal than I painted on the layer before. So I'm going to leave some of that lighter layer of color showing. And I'm not going to worry about softening out the edges or making sure that the darker color blends into the lighter color. I'm going to leave that hard delineation between the 2 colors. Just like before, I'm going to continue my way all the way around the image, filling in the second layer for each of the individual elements. And you can see that I'm working rather quickly and I'm not overthinking what I'm doing. There is a freedom to this technique that I really enjoy. Now for some of the colors, instead of just using a more concentrated layer of the same color, I mixed in a little bit of its darker color. So for instance, the canna lilies here, I started the first layer in scattered straw, and then the second layer of scattered straw it didn't have quite the punch, quite the contrast that I was looking for. So I added a little carved pumpkin to that, and that gave me just the right amount of contrast that I was looking for. So don't be afraid to mix some colors together, maybe a darker, if you're using a light color distress ink and you can't really get the depth you're looking for a second or third layer, grab one of the darker of the distress ink in that same color family and mix that in. Or grab something that's, if you're working with a cooler color, grab a little bit more of the warmer of that color and mix that in just to add a little bit of interest. So for this third layer, I was using the abandoned coral. I'm going to mix in a little bit of the festive berries because I know that that's going to take it just a little bit deeper. And I'm going to test it on my scratch paper to make sure that I get the depth of color I'm looking for before I take it to my project. And I like how that one looks. So I'm going to go ahead and come in and lay in my third layer. Now my third layer is going to cover even less area than the second layer. Working in the exact same manner though, not blending out those edges, leaving them nice and crisp, leaving that hard delineation between the colors. And my thought process here is just to add this into the shadowed into the shadowed areas. If I don't get it exactly right or perfect, it's really not going to matter. I don't know if it's coming through on the video. If it is, I apologize. It is, woo, we are in the middle of a storm. It has been raining here non-stop, and the thunder is for real. I personally love thunderstorms. I love, love, love thunder and lightning. There is just nothing better than curling up on the couch with a blanket during a thunderstorm. It's like it gives you permission to be lazy and lay on the couch. So I've worked my whole way around the image. I've added the third layer, and now I decided that I wanted a little bit more depth here and there. So I'm coming in with a fourth layer. Again, this one is going to be darker than the third one. And I'm not going to do every image with a fourth layer. I'm just going to pick pieces and parts to add just a little more interest to them. And again, you can take this as far as you want or as minimal as you want. It's up to you. It's just having fun and exploring the different depths of color and finding out what works for you, what you find pleasing to look at. And really that's all this card needs. Now that it's done, all I need to do is mount that to a card base and it's finished. To me, it's interesting enough that you don't need to do anything else or add anything more to it. So while I was at it, like I said, you guys, it's been raining. Perfect excuse to paint or color or lay on the couch and Netflix and chill. Another great advantage to this technique is it allows you to really knock out large scale or larger scale projects really quickly. I decided to do this all over pattern. It took me about 30 minutes in total to do the whole thing. I've got it sped up to 3 times the speed. I wanted to do a multicolored background. So each of the hibiscus I've done a different color. And for a lot of it, I'm just using up some of the leftover ink that's already on my little palette here. And periodically I'm adding in a few extra colors. For instance, I could not find my purple. I don't know where my purple distress inks went. They're somewhere in this room. I cannot find them for the life of me. So I just mixed some red and blues together to get some purples. Easy enough, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. So a little bit about the coloring challenge. This is the 10th one that Kathy Rakusin has hosted. And you guys, if you've been around my channel for a while, you've seen me participate in the blog hops for this challenge. I don't always get to participate in all 30 days, but that's the great thing about this challenge. You're encouraged to do it whenever you can. If you have to miss a few days, that's fine. If you have to miss a week, totally fine. It's just a way for people who love coloring and find it as a stress relief or just want to improve their coloring skills to get together and share their work with each other and encourage each other. The other great thing is there are what Kathy calls her color challenge ambassadors who are always commenting on all of the photos and all of the projects that are shared and encouraging everyone to really flex those creative muscles. You know what they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. Well, it is true with your creative muscles as well. I just love the sense of community in this challenge. It's a great way to meet other colorists who are passionate about the same thing you are. And I highly encourage you, if you haven't already, be sure to check out Kathy's blog. I'll have the link in the description box below so that you can check out all of the details. Again, like I said, there are prizes periodically throughout the month, and there are prizes at many of the stops on this blog hop as well. So be sure to click over to my blog. Again, the link is in the description box below, where I'm also doing a giveaway. So back to this background, I'm pretty much done. I'm just adding a few little details here and there of some not extremely dark, but the darkest color. It's probably, in some areas, it may be a 5th or 6th level. But with each layer, it just gets more and more interesting. I love this style. I love the illustrative, artistic look of it. It's not photorealistic, and that's fine, but it definitely has a ton of character. So all in all, I ended up with 3 finished cards. I worked for about an hour, and these are the cards that I came up with. So this is the all over background here. I stamped the You Are Fierce and Fabulous stamp set on a piece of vellum and adhered that to the front. And then here's the other one that we created on camera. I added a few accents using this little confetti type stamp from our And Many More stamp set. I love it. I always look for little images like that in any set because it can add a lot of character. Here's pretty much an exact replica of the other card, except for I stamped and die cut some of the individual hibiscus and monstera leaves from our Tropic Fever stamp set. So this just created a little stepped up version of that same card, whereas the other one was just a 1-layer card. I really hope that you enjoyed today's projects, and I hope that you check out the color challenge. I want to thank Kathy for asking me to join in on the blog hop. Remember, you can find everything in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!